Something big from God. People hear that, and they expect light, miracles, a golden road laid out in front of them. But what if I told you it doesn't come wrapped in beauty, it comes wrapped in struggle? What if the gift isn't comfort, but chaos? What if the blessing is disguised as loss, as pain, as a storm meant to tear down everything soft inside you? People think God hands out crowns, but what he really gives are crosses. Weights so heavy they either crush you or force you to grow strong enough to carry them. And that's the thing about something big from God. It never looks like a gift when it first arrives. Something big from God. People imagine it as a shining light, a doorway opening, an easy path laid out with certainty. They think it feels warm, gentle, and welcoming. But no, it rarely comes like that. When something big is sent your way, it often crawls in with sharp edges, with weight that presses on your chest until you can't breathe, with a silence that feels louder than any noise you've ever heard. It doesn't whisper sweet promises. It drags you into confusion, into pain, into a place where you question everything you thought you knew. That's the trick. That's how it hides. Because if it came dressed as a gift, you'd take it lightly. But when it comes as a storm, it demands something deeper from you. Struggle is the wrapping paper, the disguise. It looks like failure, like loss, like rejection. It looks like doors slamming in your face, people walking away. Nights where you beg for relief but nothing comes. It looks like everything falling apart, but in reality, it's everything falling into place. Because you don't become ready through ease. You become ready through the kind of pain that cracks you open. The gift doesn't reveal itself until you've been broken enough to see it. People call it unfair. They call it cruel. But it's not. It's precise. It's intentional. The weight is chosen to fit you, to carve you into someone who can handle what's coming. When something big from God enters your life, it doesn't knock politely. It breaks down the door. It doesn't ask if you're comfortable. It makes you uncomfortable enough to move, to grow, to shed the skin you've been hiding in. Struggle isn't a mistake. It's the signal. It's the packaging that tells you what's inside is valuable. Diamonds don't come from gentle soil. They come from crushing pressure. Steel doesn't become strong by staying cool. It has to pass through fire. And you too are no different. People miss it because they're looking for comfort. They want the blessing to feel like a blessing from the start. But that's not how it works. Something big can't be handed to someone untested. Otherwise, it slips right through their fingers. So instead, it arrives as chaos, as a weight that forces you to transform. It's not here to make you smile. It's here to make you strong. And only once you've endured the disguise, once you've survived the storm, do you realize what was really given to you. The beauty of struggle is that it strips away illusions. It removes the fake friends, the shallow dreams, the distractions you thought were important. When you're left standing alone with nothing but pain, that's when you discover who you are and what you're made for. That's when the gift begins to take shape. You start seeing that the loss was direction, the rejection was protection, the pain was preparation. None of it was random. Every cut, every scar, every tear was shaping you into the person capable of holding on to what's coming. The world doesn't see it that way. The world tells you blessings should feel good, that something big from above should arrive with applause, with signs, with joy. But the truth is quieter, darker, more raw. It's not about how it looks, it's about how it molds you. And molding always hurts. Clay doesn't complain when the potter presses it down, stretches it, reshapes it. Steel doesn't complain when the hammer falls again and again. But you, when the struggle comes, you cry out, thinking you're being punished, when in reality you're being prepared. The disguise is part of the gift. If it came easy, everyone would claim it. If it came soft, you'd never grow strong enough to hold it. But because it comes wrapped in struggle, only those who endure, only those who refuse to quit, only those who see beyond the pain will ever truly unwrap it. And that's why something big from God doesn't arrive like a treasure. It arrives like a test. Only those who push through will see that the struggle itself was never punishment. It was the proof. It was the sign. It was the gift. Blessings often come wrapped in pain. Strange, isn't it? People expect them to shine, to sparkle, to arrive with smiles and applause. They expect blessings to be obvious, to feel soft, to comfort the soul. But the reality, most of the time, blessings feel like the exact opposite. They feel like heartbreak, like betrayal, like nights spent awake questioning whether you've been forgotten. They don't look like gifts. They look like curses. And that's why so many people miss them. Because they throw the package away before opening it. Pain is the language no one wants to learn. But it's the only one that speaks the truth. When a blessing enters your life, it doesn't come to soothe you. It comes to sharpen you. Pain is the wrapping paper, the mask. It hides the treasure until you're willing to dig deeper, until you're desperate enough to look past the hurt. Because only through pain do you stop clinging to illusions. Only through pain do you discover strength you didn't know existed. Without it, you'd stay soft, fragile, unprepared for what's waiting. Think about it. When do you grow the most? Not when everything is easy. Not when life is comfortable. Growth comes when you're stretched to your breaking point. When you're forced to confront the parts of yourself you've been running from. That's the blessing. It's not the pain itself, but what the pain builds inside you. It creates resilience. It teaches patience. It carves humility. It strips away arrogance. It molds you into someone who can actually carry the weight of what you once prayed for. Without that process, the blessing would crush you instead of lifting you. Most people can't see that. They receive the pain and call it punishment. They curse the heavens. They complain about unfairness. They convince themselves they've been abandoned. They don't realize they're standing at the doorstep of something bigger. But because it doesn't look like a gift, they never open the door. They let bitterness steal what was meant for them. And so, the blessing passes them by, Still wrapped, still hidden, never revealed. Pain forces clarity. It exposes who's truly with you and who only came for convenience. It tears apart your illusions about the world, about love, about yourself. It leaves you raw, bare, uncomfortable. And in that rawness, you're finally ready. Because the truth is, you can't receive something big if your hands are still full of lies. Pain empties them. It makes room. It creates the space where the blessing can actually land. It's almost poetic, really. People pray for strength, and they're given battles. They pray for wisdom, and they're given mistakes. They pray for love, and they're given heartbreak. At first, it feels cruel, almost twisted. But look deeper. Strength doesn't come from ease. Wisdom doesn't come from success. Love doesn't become real until you've felt its absence. The pain is not the opposite of the blessing. It's the very path to it. Blessings wrapped in pain are the ones that last. They're the ones you fight for, bleed for, cry for. And because you've endured for them, you value them more deeply. You don't take them for granted. You don't treat them lightly. They become a part of you, stitched into your skin, written into your scars. You carry them differently than the ones handed to you without struggle. Because these blessings, the ones that come wrapped in pain, they shape you while they reward you. So when the storm comes, when everything feels like it's falling apart, maybe it isn't. Maybe it's falling together. Maybe the pain is the paper covering the gift, daring you to tear it open. Most people never do. They stop at the hurt, never realizing the treasure is hidden inside it. But the chosen, the ones willing to bleed for something bigger, they unwrap it, and they see that the pain wasn't punishment. It was proof. Proof that something worth carrying had finally arrived. Growth is hidden inside loss and chaos. People imagine growth as a smooth climb, a steady rise toward success, with applause waiting at the top. But growth rarely looks like that. More often, it feels like your world being torn apart, your plans collapsing, everything you thought was solid slipping through your fingers. It feels like betrayal, like endings, like silence where answers should be. Chaos doesn't ask for permission. It storms in, rips apart the comfortable life you built, and forces you to face the truth. You don't grow in peace. You grow in the ruins. Loss is the cruel teacher nobody asks for, but everyone meets. It strips away your attachments. It burns down your illusions. It takes from you the things you swore you couldn't live without. And in that emptiness, something happens. You learn. You learn that your worth was never in what you lost. You learn that survival is possible, even when the world says it isn't. You learn that everything external is temporary, and the only thing you truly own is the strength you build in the wreckage. Loss isn't just an ending. It's a reshaping. It cuts you open so growth has room to enter. Chaos works the same way. People fear it because it feels uncontrollable, unpredictable, merciless. But chaos is honest. It doesn't lie to you. It doesn't let you pretend. It exposes the fragility of your routines, your systems, your beliefs. It throws you into situations where nothing makes sense, where the rules you trusted no longer apply. And in that confusion, you adapt. You find new ways to think, new ways to fight, new ways to stand. Chaos is a forge, and you are the steel being hammered. Every strike hurts, but every strike shapes you. The problem is, most people run from loss and chaos. They numb themselves. They hide in distractions. They pray for it to end without ever asking what it came to teach. They see it as destruction, not transformation. But those who endure, those who stare into the flames instead of running, they discover the truth. Growth was never hidden in comfort. It was always hiding in the places you least wanted to look. The places where you were stripped bare, forced to rebuild, forced to rise. Think about the times you changed the most. Was it when everything was easy, predictable, safe? Or was it when everything fell apart? It's always the breaking that builds you. It's always the chaos that awakens you. Because when you lose, you also learn what you can live without. When chaos hits, you learn how strong you really are. The pain clears away what was weak, what was false, what was never meant to last. And though it feels unbearable in the moment, it plants seeds of resilience that you'll carry forever. Loss and chaos don't come to destroy you. They come to strip you down to what's real. They remove the masks, the lies, the comforts you thought you needed. They take you to the edge, to the place where you question whether you can go on. And then, if you don't quit, if you don't collapse, you rise. Stronger, sharper, hungrier. The growth you prayed for is hidden inside the very thing you feared. It's a cruel trick, isn't it? You beg for strength, and you're given loss. You beg for clarity, and you're given chaos. You beg for growth, and you're handed pain. But that's the design. That's the hidden pattern. Because real growth can't be handed to you. It has to be earned. It has to be pulled out of you in fire and in loss. That's why the blessings that come through chaos feel different. They're not just things you receive. They're things you become. And maybe that's the point. Growth isn't about gaining. It's about becoming. And you don't become in safety. You become in the dark, in the broken, in the storm. You become in the moments where you think it's over, only to find out you're still standing. You become in the loss that clears the path, in the chaos that forces you forward. Growth was never hiding in peace. It was always hiding in the wreckage. Strength is forged through heavy burdens, not through easy days, not through applause, not through comfort. Strength doesn't grow when life is soft and predictable. It grows when something heavy is dropped on your shoulders and you don't have the luxury of letting it crush you. It grows when you wake up with the weight of the world pressing against your chest and you still find a way to stand. People want strength as a gift, but it never comes wrapped like that. It comes disguised as responsibility, as pain, as challenges that demand more than you think you have. The burden is the blacksmith's hammer. Every blow shapes you. Every ounce of weight makes you harder, sharper, more unbreakable. Carrying something you never asked for, something you think is unfair. That's where strength lives. The heavy doesn't disappear. You just grow strong enough to lift it. And in the process, your body, your mind, your spirit change. You stop being who you were. You become something new, something unrecognizable to those who once knew you. Not because life handed you gifts, but because life threw stones, and you learned to build walls with them. Most people run from the heavy. They beg for it to be lifted. They curse the sky, wondering why the burden landed on them and not someone else. They don't realize that being chosen for a weight is proof of potential. No one puts a crown on weak shoulders. No one hands fire to those too afraid to burn. If the burden found you, it's because you're meant to be stronger than the rest. But strength doesn't come instantly. It comes slowly, painfully, through the endless repetition of carrying what you thought you couldn't carry. The thing about heavy burdens is they break the illusions. They force you to face the truth of who you are. You can't fake strength under weight. You either collapse or you rise. And every time you rise, even if your knees shake, even if your bones scream, you build something inside yourself that can't be stolen. That's why strength forged through burden is different from strength borrowed from comfort. Comfort gives you nothing lasting. Burden gives you scars. And those scars are proof you survived what should have destroyed you. Look at the strongest people you've ever seen. Their strength wasn't born from ease. It was carved out of suffering, responsibility, sacrifice. It came from holding the kind of pain that would have crushed others. It came from carrying the kind of silence that would have broken weaker minds. Their strength wasn't a choice. It was survival. And in surviving, they became more than they were. The heavy burden wasn't punishment. It was transformation. Every weight you carry, every challenge that feels impossible, every responsibility that feels unfair, it's all the same process. The more you carry, the more you grow. The heavier the burden, the sharper the edge it forges inside you. Pain becomes fuel. Struggle becomes fire. Pressure becomes the forge. You hate it while you're in it, but when you look back, you realize the burden gave you the very thing you prayed for. Strength, resilience, endurance. Things no one can hand you. Things no one can fake. It's not fair. It's not gentle. But it's real. You don't get strength from sitting still. You don't get strength from wishing. You get strength from lifting what was meant to break you and realizing it didn't. You get strength from carrying the unbearable until it becomes normal. And then one day, you look around and realize what crushes others is nothing to you anymore. The burden is still heavy, but you have become heavier. That's the secret. The burden never really changes. You do. True gifts don't feel like gifts at first. They sneak into your life dressed as problems, as chaos, as pain that twists your stomach and keeps you awake at night. People imagine a gift from above as something that makes them smile, something that brings ease, something that feels good from the beginning. But the reality is far darker. The gifts that matter most, the ones that shape your life forever, they don't arrive in pretty wrapping. They arrive in a form that makes you question whether you've been cursed. Think about it. How many times have you looked back at something that once broke you and realized it gave you exactly what you needed. A heartbreak that ripped you apart, but taught you who you were. A failure that embarrassed you, but forced you to sharpen your craft. A loss that shattered your heart, but stripped away the lies you were living in. At the time, it didn't feel like a gift. It felt like punishment. But years later, you realize it was the very thing that turned you into who you are now. That's the cruel trick of real gifts. They don't give comfort immediately. They demand growth. And growth hurts. It stretches you, burns you, leaves scars on your soul. A true gift is something that forces you to evolve, to shed your old skin, to bury the version of yourself that wasn't strong enough to carry what's coming. It feels like death at first because in a way it is. It kills the weaker parts of you, but in doing so, it awakens something greater. People waste their lives chasing easy gifts, the ones that sparkle for a moment and then fade. Money that slips through their fingers. Praise that turns silent when they fail. Comfort that rots them from the inside out. They cling to these things because they feel good instantly, but they're not real. They're illusions. A true gift doesn't fade. A true gift builds you. It burns itself into your bones so deeply that nothing can take it away. And that's why, when it first arrives, it feels unbearable. It shakes your world. It pulls people out of your life. It strips away everything you thought you needed. You cry out for relief, not realizing the very thing you're fighting against is the thing you asked for. You wanted strength, but you didn't know it would come wrapped in suffering. You wanted purpose, but you didn't know it would come wrapped in loss. You wanted clarity, but you didn't know it would come wrapped in chaos. The gift never looks like the prayer you spoke. It looks like the answer you weren't ready to see. What makes it real is the transformation it forces. A fake gift keeps you the same. A true gift changes you, whether you like it or not. It strips away who you were and demands you become someone new. And when the dust settles, when you finally see what it gave you, you realize it was worth the pain. The suffering wasn't a distraction. It was the wrapping paper. Ugly, jagged, painful to tear apart, but inside was something priceless. That's why only a few ever unwrap the real gifts. Most throw them away because they can't get past the pain. They curse the sky, convinced they've been abandoned, when in truth, they've been chosen. The gift was there all along, hidden in the suffering they refused to endure. And so, they miss it. They settle for the fake gifts, the shallow ones, the ones that feel good for a moment but vanish when life gets hard. True gifts never vanish. They scar you. They shape you. They strengthen you. And the reason they don't feel like gifts at first is because they're not here to please you. They're here to prepare you. They come disguised, wrapped in fire, hidden in the kind of pain most people run from. But if you're willing to bleed, if you're willing to endure, if you're willing to keep going when it feels like everything is falling apart, you'll find them. And when you do, you'll realize the curse you hated was the gift you needed all along.